Okay, see if anyone finds me over here. Okay, JN's 77. I see you. I'm looking for some information on my other site. Go there. Okay, just a moment. I need to kind of deal with something here. I've often wondered why I saw this. Can you hear me? You hear me. Does everyone hear me? I've often wondered why. Okay, I don't know what's going on over there. Okay. I meant to, okay, forget that. Okay, well, let me just go ahead. The rest of it doesn't matter. I meant to, there is no super chatting or anything like that allowed on this because I live in Georgia and evidently they don't like that sort of thing with the banks here. So if you do feel like contributing, there is indeed PayPal, if you can find a link for that. I did have it on the other one, but it's not on this one. It's just that's how it goes. But I will get a notice through my PayPal account, and if that comes through, I'll let you know. But there's probably not going to be a lot of people. Although I'm up to 1,400 and some odd people now. Probably some very odd people. And so that's good news. But the way these things work is that, you can have 1,400 people. How many people are going to show up for a live feed? Well, if you actually look at PewDiePie's numbers, PewDiePie has over 100 and I don't know how many, 120 million people or so by now. And yet you look how many people actually respond to him, the number is far, far lower. And that's just how it goes. You never get everyone showing up. And plus, I did this as a last minute thing because I just said, let's give this a try. So I'm glad to hear that it's working. Vixen, you there? How you doing? Mr. Smoking Alien, I know who you are, and Genesis Van Kegler. It's good to know no one is giving me their real name here. Okay. My name is Byrne Power. Chris, are you strange? Chris Strange, where are you coming from? And JNs, where are you coming from? So let me tell you what I was doing today. I've been trying to buy a house with my little bit of money that I've saved up. I had to get a loan from a friend of mine because they wanted 30% down instead of 10%. Zurich, Switzerland. I've actually been to Zurich, and I like it there. Where in Canada, Chris? The strange part, obviously. I've been to Canada, but no, I spent about a week in the Zurich area back in 1979. So it's probably a little different since then. But Switzerland doesn't change all that much out of all the places in the world. Yes, Genesis equals Justin. Okay. And NJ Cole is from New Zealand. Very cool. Yeah, lots of stuff going on around the world. Toronto, or as they say, is this right? Toronto? That's how you say it there? You don't say Toronto. And Chris Strange is from Vancouver, which is a place I've never been to, although I used to pass it all the time to get from Seattle to Alaska. But I never stopped there because Seattle's kind of like Vancouver, although I'm sure there's big differences in different ways. But I was always in a rush to get up to Haines, Alaska. Yeah, Toronto. I've been to Toronto twice, and Chattanooga, just north of, Georgia, that Georgia. I always tell people, no, this is the real Georgia. And people say, hey, wait a minute, we're from Macon, and this is the real Georgia here. And I'm saying, sorry, this country invented wine 6,000 years BC. So, oops, it's been around a little longer. Yeah. But anyway, I was looking for it is so hard to find a place. And what makes it so hard is that I have to get my friends to help me because I can't get in there, and I can't call the people up, because when I call up, they go, and Georgian sounds like, I've told Georgians this and they always laugh. Georgian, when you first hear it, sounds like someone changing the dial quickly on a radio, where it's just like, and you hear these sounds. It took me months and months to be able to distinguish separate words because it just was so strange sounding to me. Anyway, I need to get my friends to help me. And by the way, while I'm doing this, think about questions for me. We will get to that in a bit if you have any questions, but don't put them down yet because I'm not going to be looking at this for a few minutes. So I go and wait for a friend, and I've discovered something. When Georgians say to you, meet me, if they say meet me at 3:00 in the afternoon, which is what it was today, when I say meet me at 3:00, and when you probably say it, most of you probably think by 3:00. Georgians, I'm convinced, are not, they do it. It's like, I won't be there before 3:00. Hey, Day, good to see you. Are you in Florida? So I waited for my friend, who of course was 45 minutes late, and that's Georgia. And then we took the bus up the side of the mountain to about the 3,000 foot level. No, yeah, 3,000 feet. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and we went to this place, but the directions were totally weird. My friend's phone broke. I don't have a phone that has like maps on it. But we eventually got there, and then the house it turned out to be like a geniusly bad marketing. And one thing that's happening here is that, hello, Varivid from Germany. Good to see you. Daijen, Vixen saying hello. So I mean, and I knew the house needed work, but the thing is, so they're selling a house for sale. What is that? When you hear house for sale, what do you think? Well, I know what I think. I think it's a structure that has one person lives in the structure. But no, what the Georgians mean by house for sale, unless it's something very distinct, what they mean is it's in a kind of it's not a huge apartment block, like a Soviet style apartment block. It is, what is it? It's just kind of a smaller building that's like a house. So this one had 3 apartments in it, which is not my idea of a house for sale. And then it was in the middle of all these other bad, like blocky house-like and apartment buildings. I was just like, no, this isn't what they wrote down at all, and this isn't what the photos were. The photos lied. So I came back from that, and this is how it goes. I have to get my friend to help me with the Georgian. So someone who speaks Georgian has to call for me. Then they have to go out of their schedule. Then we have to meet, go up there, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy. It goes on and on and on. Well, there is still this one place. Well, one of the things that kept me going for so long was, so no, not semi-detached. It's like literally, what in America we would call a small apartment building. It's just because it's, you realize, I mean, often in Georgia, I have these moments. I was having one of these moments today. And if you're from like Germany or Switzerland, this would drive you absolutely insane because you're even more specific. And I think the English too are like this, more specific about meeting people on time and stuff than even we are in America. I mean, we're pretty strong on it, but there are certain Americans who are, quite a few who are kind of like, if you come here between 5-10 minutes early or late, that sort of thing. Whereas here, I mean, literally, if someone gets there a half hour after they say, or an hour, it's in the ballpark of being there on time. So it's just a very strange thing. And there's all these things that they don't fit into my brain. And the waiting for my friend today was just driving me insane. I've waited for her before and before and before. I waited for other people before and before and before. But it's just simply quite, it turns I think it's designed almost to turn the heads inside out of people like myself who are, I get places early and wait for people. And it was a cold day. Not that it mattered to me at all, but let's see. We have no dog in the dogfight. We are witnessing the green screen world stage drama. Okay. I'm not going to read out every one of these. I have no idea what that was about. So anyway, I'm still looking for a place. And my friend sent me another place that looks interesting, which actually is a separate house. But there's this one that's in a shared, an old building that's shared that I'm thinking about. Hold on a second. Okay. I've got all sorts of issues here. And before we get into, if you've got any questions, throw a few down and I will try to get to them. Don't all do it at once because, I'll be here for at least an hour. So let's see. And there's other stuff to talk about. Okay. I have to run. Okay, Chris. Thanks for dropping in. Let's see. How's the Twitter life treating you? Yeah, did you notice I signed up to Twitter? The reason I signed up for Twitter, I wouldn't have done it were it not for this one specific reason. There are some people I would like to interview on my channel here, and there is no way for me to contact them easily apart from Twitter. So, for instance, there's I think I can talk. I think I'll get Tom Holland and Douglas Murray through there, and I'd also like to get. There's some other people there. Mary Harrington is an interesting person. Maybe Alex Castuta. Some of those people are interesting. And there's some other people, but sometimes you can contact people through YouTube. If they have a YouTube channel, there's a little about section. If you go in there, often there's a, see my email, and you have to go through a little bit of a screen capture thing. How many motorcycles are in this picture? CAPTCHA thing. But these people don't have a presence on YouTube of their own channel, or if they do, it's not easy to get through to them. So that's why I'm on Twitter. So yeah, and I've gotten up to, my numbers increase, but I'm not really. I don't particularly. Twitter, I can see why people say it's like internet crack, because the only thing you seem to be able to do on it, and I have to do it to get some sort of track record in order that when someone sees me responding, they'll go and see, oh, he's been responding to so-and-so and doing this stuff. The the only thing it seems that you can really do on Twitter is make little comments on people, and it all seems to eventually be kind of political. And quite frankly, I can play the game, but it's kind of boring to me. I'd much rather do something with a little more meat on the bone, which is why I like doing long videos and such. Okay. Let's see. Hello, sir. Fan of yours. Okay. Jomana. All right. Or is it Jomana? I don't know. Where are you, Jomana? Like the ones about the 20 teens help me to understand many mainstream issues. Yeah, I am working on the next one. And I've wanted to kind of let things settle more. So I'm glad the Kyle Rittenhouse trial is off the menu now, because that'll help me in discussing. I need to make my final How We Got Here one will be on 2020. And I'm not going to go into 2021 except for the early part up to Biden's the beginning of Biden's presidency, him actually entering the White House, because of that, all that stuff, January 6th and everything, is part of 2020. That's one of the nice things about being interested in history, is you realize where the media will tell you, what's the 60s, what's the 70s, the reality always is sloppy and overlaps with it doesn't overlap neatly. Sometimes it does, but for instance, the more I think about it, it's like, when did the 2020s start? And everyone will say you in 2020, and I'm going like, no, not really. That's the teens, because we don't start with 0, we start with 1. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that was just the explosive end of the teens. Okay, Justin asks, so Jomana, was it the Jomana or Jomana? I said both of them, so I'm not really sure. Okay, a couple of questions here. Justin, i.e. Jen, asked, you seem healthy, but have you had to deal with any health issues or scares over the years? That could be an involved question, and I probably am not going to talk all about that right now. I'll just say, yeah, I've had my issues. I've never had any serious, like long-term chronic issue. I broke my wrist right before I slipped on the ice and broke my wrist right before I went on my trip to Europe in 2005. I did, during the middle of all of this COVID stuff, have a what is it? A severe case of food poisoning that I thought, it was the closest I had ever thought to food poisoning killing me. But that just lasted, like literally a few hours in the middle of the night, wherein I just wondered about the meaning of everything. as I was just like, how's virus mania in Georgia? Smoking Alien, I'm getting back to you about your portrayal of Christ on film. I'm thinking about it. Let's see. How's virus mania? The truth is, Georgia's pretty relaxed on all of this. A lot of people here aren't vaccinated yet, but there isn't any hysteria around the subject, nor are there any huge mandates coming up about it, because the Georgians they're just really resistant in a really, I think, I hear about what's going on in Austria right now, and I'm going like, well, they're Austrians, so they're much more organized about things than anybody here would ever be. Georgians are kind of like, fighting a Georgian would be like fighting a bowl of Jell-O. You just punch your hand in, it would go, and it wouldn't do anything. And Georgians do get upset about stuff, but not this whole thing. It's kind of, people are really relaxed about it. I covered this in my one of my very recent Georgian Crossroads video, which, by the way, if you don't know it, I do have another channel called Georgian Crossroads where I deal with my life here in Georgia. And I did one, I have a series called Infected Georgia that I've been doing every now and then during this whole pandemic. So, let's see. So, anyway, so no, things are pretty chill. You know, it's like sometimes people have the mask, sometimes they don't. When you walk into a store, everyone has a mask. If you're on the subway, everyone has a mask. But no one seems like panicked about it. Now, the truth is, people do die here, you know, and in fact, we kept the virus almost supernaturally. What is it? Almost supernaturally low in the beginning, and then as soon as the cover came off, and then people started to relax, as is the Georgian desire. Then the numbers went up, and in fact, the statistics were pretty intense. However, that doesn't mean the Georgians ever got paranoid. They just don't. You know, it's like they don't get paranoid about people die here all the time. They don't, you know, they've gone through a civil war. It's just like, what's a virus to them? It's just like, I find it's places like America or Canada where people get really weird because they've never experienced anything like this in living memory. And so, you know, it's unfortunate most of the generation who went through the Depression in the States have essentially disappeared. And so there's no one who remembers that kind of long, sustained, problematic culture. Okay, what else have we got here? Okay, got it. It's your mama. I want to say your mama, but okay. Okay, let me answer briefly the which is the best portrayal of Christ on film. I'm still going with the old Jesus of Nazareth, Zeffirelli television film. I thought that was probably very good. I would say I like Ben-Hur's because they don't really show his face. I think that's a very interesting approach, and in some ways probably better. Mel Gibson's approach, well, I like that film, The Passion of the Christ, but at the same time, I think because it is so micro-focused on the death of Christ, the suffering, the passion of Christ, it doesn't, the character, you don't get the character, you just get the suffering. And there was I kind of like the one on the Gospel of John with, I can't remember the guy's name, Ian somebody. But playing Jesus is always a tough one. And it's tough. I mean, maybe someday I'll do a video on it. Certainly not right away, but I'll wait until I get all my stuff here. But yeah, but I'm going to go with Zeffirelli's Jesus of Nazareth. I thought that was pretty good. Let's see, what else have we got here? Okay, Dejin asks, since I put the Hydra video, any more thoughts? Have you discovered a name yet? No, I haven't. And like I said, I don't think we're going to come up with one right away. I mean, I sometimes just say the Hydra, but the Hydra is the kind of thing you name your mythological villain, obviously. It's almost like a superhero, a super villain. Whereas, in fact, Joshua Slocum, who does the Disaffected video, he came up with a very interesting idea about the fact that there's all these psychological issues attached to this stuff. And so I think that, and one thing I see is that there's a lot more psychology going on here than it seems. Also, I think there's a lot more misanthropy and really genuine anti-human stuff. I think what will probably happen in the future is for instance, in America, most of the black population will move away from the excesses of BLM and critical race theory Um, I mean, this may not happen in a year, but after a while, this is what's going to happen because it's just so ridiculous. But there will be those true believers who hold on, and those ideas are very anti-human in the end. It's this idea of leveling out everything. You can't make a world where everyone is just like identical to each other. And yet, what's funny is I've got a video that I want to do soon, and it's called Diversity versus Diversity. And there's the diversity of this new idea versus genuine human diversity. And I think genuine human diversity is kind of like what I see happening in reaction to this. You have all these different groups. And one thing I've said more than once is that you have all these different groups who are opposed to what's going on. Now, the media likes to call them all white supremacists, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, because you're getting more black people, more Hispanic people, who don't want to use the word Latinx or Latinx. Shouldn't it be Latinx? And you're getting more people who are L and G reacting to this whole T mess, and you're getting, so what's happening is, but you're getting all these people on the other side who basically were all the people who were yelling at each other during the 90s are talking to each other. And I think the reason for that is because the foot that's coming down on top of everyone is it's kind of like saying, okay, we'll get back to discussing homosexuality, what it is it moral, blah, 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 later. We'll get back to discussing how to have an equitable society later. Because right now, this other thing, this Hydra, this beast, is kind of bringing us all together. It's a great, it would make a great fantasy story of all these fighting groups who suddenly have to get together because there's suddenly this bigger thing coming after them. And so let me see what I'm missing here. So evidently in Switzerland, they're having referendums, as is the usual Swiss custom, dealing with the COVID passports. JNs, what do you think? Do you think what do you feel the temperature is? Do you think they're going to go with it, or do you think they're going to say no, or some other solution? Check out Jay Dyer. Okay, I'll keep that name or you can put, if there's an interesting video or something, you can write it down in the comments, not the comments here, but the comments below the video. And again, there are no super chats with this because I'm living in Georgia, but if you feel like contributing anything, you can do it through PayPal. And, just even $5 or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. But anything helps. Let's see, first name, last name, high numbers, probably because everyone knows it's not real numbers. Oh, what do you say? Okay. Okay, so Wana Mama. If I squint, it's because my eyes are not perfect and I'm getting older and I don't feel like wearing my glasses. I watched your video on Cabinets of Curiosities because I'm actually making one for my studies. Excellent. I really love it when people do these things in reality, because to me, all of this, nice though it is unreal. I mean, I would much rather hear about someone, creating something in their backyard than I would just simply. I find people often just talk on this. This is what I see in Twitter. It's kind of like a reaction festival. Some of it is good. A lot of it is just propaganda. People propagandizing each other. Okay. So anyway, Wana Mama, I'm glad that you enjoyed that. Did you see my book on shadows? I mean, the Book of Shadows video I did a week or so ago. Let's see. Oh, Justin says, same man. He is not even equal to himself on different days. Yes, yes, yeah. How can we be equal? And what you're seeing is also a lot of mineral spring water. There's so much of it here. And a lot of it has weird gassy bubbles and all sorts of bizarre flavors, of minerals. Okay, my next assignment is on an object in a hidden room. I chose the Stone of Destiny. One objective in my lesson plan is critical thinking and how very old mystical relics. Any thoughts? I don't quite get what you're saying there. Are you trying to hide an object in a room? Object in a hidden room, or hide the room? Maybe write a little bit more about that to clarify that. Thank you. It is kind of screwed up how, or as my mother would say, how fouled up the tolerant the racist community is. Yeah, well, that's really bizarre because obviously the whole race issue is like a tripwire to a minefield or a bomb explosion. But yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying though, is like in this diversity versus diversity. The weird thing over here is these people want everyone to look different. So, get a certain kind of, wear strange clothing, do strange things with your hair, whatever. But you're all supposed to think the same. And also, anyone who doesn't fit into this new thought pattern should be demoted and not allowed to get as much access to the system, which of course we're not going to do. I mean, the way it is like all kind of white privileged people. Okay, there, I'm back on. Did it sound funny for a moment there? How's the audio? Can you hear me? Let me know. Yeah. Okay, so things are good now. I think sometimes, yeah. I mean, I actually, my streaming is pretty good here, but I think if I move my hands too much or something, it causes this thing to go like, we don't know, too much information is going through. Let's see. Okay, I get it. So Switzerland's probably going to go with the program. Although the Swiss tend to vote things out pretty regularly. Vote them in, vote them out. So hopefully the Swiss reasonableness will triumph. Is there a reason you chose Georgia? Is there a second choice? No, there isn't a second choice. Yeah, I still do need to make this video. I would recommend one thing, Mana. I would check out the video I did. It was questions and answers on my kind of autobiography, and I cover some of this there. But as I've said before, I mean, it's a long story, but the short of it is I chose to come here. I was living in Alaska. I'd been living there for 22 years. Many things just kind of pointed me here. I had come here doing research on European puppet theaters in 2016. I came back again because for complex reason, and then I thought I was getting a job here, so I decided to move here. And then when I got here, the job turned out to be, well, not what I thought. And I mean, there are other countries I suppose I wouldn't mind living in. I like the Czech Republic. I like France. They're both in the EU, and it would be a little tough to get in there. But I have friends there, and I will actually be trying to visit my friends in the Czech Republic. There's an editor there who wants to take my information on puppetry and make a book out of it. So I need to go there and talk to them. But everything's been slow because of this thing. So let's see. Let me go back here a little. Okay. Am I familiar with Humans of Flat Design? The Humans of Flat Design corporate art style. Do you have any thoughts on it? Are you talking about a very specific movement called Humans of Flat Design? Because for my thinking, like 90% of what's created for public consumption in both architecture and in graphic design is all flat. I mean, everything. I mean, just the textures are so empty. Well, that's why I did my lecture on textures, which I made a video out of, because for me, we're killing ourselves. See, we don't understand textures. You will notice behind me in my room, it's kind of hard to see anything that's particularly flat, because to me it's like I think texture is like nutrition. If you live in a world of flat, sterile textures, what have you got? Well, I know what most people do to combat flat, sterile textures. They stare into their screens. Something went wrong somewhere. That's all I can tell you on that. And apart from that, I would check out my my texture video, which was one of my earlier ones. Vid says, have you ever been to Germany? Yes, I have. I've been to Berlin about 3 times, and once to Lüneburg, which is like northwest Germany, I was visiting a friend there. And I like Germany. I would say, as far as cultures go, I find Germany very, very important. One of the most important cultures as far as the development of so many ideas and such. But at the same time, I don't have I much prefer hanging out in France. I'm kind of, although I love reading English books and such, England is kind of wearing off of me a bit. Maybe it's just the fact that I have to go to London when I go there. And London has really changed over the years, and I no longer find it particularly interesting. Justin says, any additional thoughts on the Halloween Kills movie? Well, I would like to say, everyone should go to Genesis von Kegler, his YouTube, and listen to his acoustic version of John Carpenter's Halloween theme song. It's great. But yeah, no, some people were just saying it was a play-by-numbers film, Halloween Kills, but I actually thought it was kind of interesting, and I'm waiting for the third one before because I think it's supposed to be a trilogy, and it feels like it's not done yet. Okay, Jay Dyer is a Christian apologist and is even in conspiracies. Does that mean he's into conspiracy theories, or does that mean he features in conspiracies that people have about him? But his philosophical and Christian knowledge just makes you think differently into a way more than we lost that. Than we average think. Okay. I'll have to take your word for it. I don't know much about him. Jomana says, Czechia's nature is beautiful. Best of luck. Yeah, I like, yeah, I don't ever call it Czechia, but yeah, it's always Czech Republic to me. And in fact, that's what they call it. And Czechia was a name that was invented because people didn't like putting the in front of Czech Republic. It's kind of funny. Okay, Wanamana. Sorry, an object of my choice hidden in a room or behind a curtain. It is all a pretend assignment to make a museum lesson plan. I chose the Stone of Destiny. So, okay. Just wondering what your thoughts on very old mythical relics and modern, especially nationalistic politics. I thought I knew a lot about the stone, not so. So many rabbit holes. Yes, there are always rabbit holes. Um, I find objects really fascinating, and I make no secret of that. At the same time, I don't see them ever as being something like sacred. That is to say, they're always, to me, just objects. I tend to just see normal objects as being filled with meaning, but I wouldn't necessarily use the word sacred. And I think and mythical relics. I mean, do we have any? you know, uh, there are places where there are objects, but there's a story of the New Guinea tribesmen who went to the museums in Sydney, and they saw the relics which were taken away from them by the missionaries, or they were told by the missionaries, you really shouldn't have these because you're worshiping demons. And then they saw them sitting in these museums, and then they said, what these people are really doing is they want the objects for themselves, which I think is really insightful, that we do tend to want objects. I think we need to surround ourselves by things that have texture, as I've said. So I have things that are bones and rocks and all sorts of stuff in my house. I don't understand the idea of hiding a thing, or maybe you're looking at the mystery of like locating it, kind of a Indiana Jones kind of thing. I'm not sure about that. Let me go on here. Yes, I should make it to southern Germany. I have been to Austria, which I really love, and I should just go over the border and check out the area below that. And if I do, I will keep you in mind. Could you flesh out your thoughts on Jonathan Peugeot? How much time have we got? I like Jonathan Peugeot. I enjoy listening to him. I was just talking with a friend the other day, and we both agreed we like what he's doing. But I have these. You may notice I have videos on symbolism, but I have the feeling I see symbolism very differently than he does, and that is to say that I tend to see symbolism as, what is it? I tend to see symbolism as something which is inherent in everything, and he often says symbolism happens. But I think what I see is he has a very, very specific interpretations of everything, and that's the part of where I jump off the train, because I think the nature of symbolism is such that objects suggest many things. And I really do think they suggest them. That is to say, I think the objects are strong in themselves and suggest something to us. But I don't think for instance, here's something that never shows up when people talk about symbolism, and I have several symbolism dictionaries at home. I have books of superstitions from different countries. I have books mythology and fairy tales. I'm very versed in this stuff. I have the Jung book on different symbols. I have, but I have the book by Matthew Peugeot on his, which he shares with his brother, the symbolic interpretation of things. And I think there's a lot of truth in it. But again, what they're doing is allegorical. That is to say, the difference between allegorical and, to me, the deeper nature symbolic is allegorical says this equals that. Aslan the lion equals Christ. That's allegorical. Whereas, if you look at a lion, well, we do get the idea of a king from a lion. But we get a lot of other things as well. And the more time you spend with lions, the more you will get out of them, and they will be symbolic reflections. And so I don't think it's like, to me, I like allegory. It's just one aspect of symbology. And I wish they would deepen their explanation, which is funny because, you know, that's what everyone thinks they're doing. But I'm coming from much different. For me, it's like, well, how come no one ever talks about the symbolism of railroads and trains? You never see this in a symbol book. It's like, these have no symbols. Are you kidding? These are rich with symbols. No one ever talks about the symbolism of cars. I mean, whenever you're driving along the road and everyone's slowed down and you're passing an upturned vehicle or a burnt out husk on the side of the road, talk about a symbolic, like fist to the gut. That thing is incredible as a symbolic image. That is death for most people, because most of us will never be at the end of the barrel of a gun. Most of us will never be at, we're never going to experience death. Death is kept away from us. It's put in a hospital room. But when you're passing the husk of a burnt out vehicle on the side of the road, especially a fresh one, ooh, talk about symbolic resonance. So, and that's where I start going like, how come, guys? How come you're never dealing with the new symbols? You see? And the new symbols aren't like just the memes and stuff. To me, the memes aren't really so much symbols as they are propaganda that is a deformation of the symbolic. Whereas the new symbol is like, you know, the skyscraper, which is the tower. It's related to an old symbol, but it is the dark tower. So let's see what else we got here. How much longer I'm going to do this? So let's see. I should go to Southern Germany. What do you think is the greatest horror film that you've ever seen that was deep and stuck with you? Eyes Without a Face, or Les Yeux Sans Visage. It's a French film from 1959. Came out about a year before Psycho, and absolutely brilliant. And it deals with it's one of the few films that deals with the subject of beauty and horror. And it's also about plastic surgery, and it's still scary as hell. You know, amazing film by Georges Franju. That would be one. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That still packs a super symbolic, super intense, meaningful punch. I mean, there's nihilism there, but it's the kind you need to think about. You know, what is the meaning of life? But I could go on and on. Maybe someday I'll do a video just on horror films. Yeah, I don't have much to say about mythical relics and nationalistic politics. That is to say, I don't think that it's easy to build religions around relics and things. And this is something I'll have to think more about, because it's just, and I know what you're talking about, but it's something that, every country has its places that are really special to them. And sometimes they have objects. But what is the meaning of that? Let me think about that. What do you think of Jordan Peterson's recent prayer poem? I thought it's like, I look at Jordan Peterson as a man who is reaching out and trying to find something meaningful to hold on to. And he is so close, the way I see it, to so many things. And all I can tell you is, and I'm glad that he put that out as like a prayer. But I'm reminded of the last words that Solzhenitsyn's Ivan Denisovich said to, actually, it wasn't Ivan Denisovich. At the end of One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, is sitting there and just goes, he just like breathes a word out, kind of like, oh God, or something like that. And this Baptist prisoner who's put in there for his faith just kind of says, hey, your heart wants to pray, let it. And I think that's what my advice to Jordan Peterson is. Okay, waiting for the third one on Halloween. Yes. Are you familiar with Break the Rules podcast? No, I am not. You know, if you think I should do something with them, if you can hook me up with them, fine. Connect me with them. That would be a good thing to leave in the notes down below the description section and not here, because this I'm not going to refer to all that much more in the future. And just to let you know, I'll give us another 15 minutes. Like I said, this is an experiment. I'm just seeing how this is going. I'm glad that I can actually kind of keep up. And I had the feeling if I got too many more people, it would get tougher and tougher. Have I seen any of Peugeot's videos? Yes, the ones on the inversion of masculine and feminine roles. And yeah, I agree with him that there's been a lot of that inversion. And I really like his idea of parasitic storytelling. I think there's a lot to that. Yeah, and I have been overwhelmed by how much wokeist Hydra inversion has been going on inside of popular culture. I mean, it's everywhere. It's in comic books, it's in video games, it's in movies and television and books, and it's just and even advertising. So yeah, and those are deep issues that we have to deal with. All I know is it ain't me. That is, I can deal with it, but not inverting myself in order to do so. Let's see. Film noir. I wondered which one you would recommend starting with. I'm familiar with them. You need to understand one thing. I love film noir, and I've continued collecting them even here. The DVDs or Blu-rays, even here. Film noir is extremely fatalistic, and to me, it really reflects the darker undercurrents of the American culture, particularly after World War II. And I would say there are some films that really give you that sense. One is some of the great ones are Out of the Past. You can write these down. Out of the Past is a great film noir. Double Indemnity. It's an insurance phrase. That's a great film noir. Let's see. A lot of the Humphrey Bogart ones from then. Oh, Touch of Evil, Orson Welles film, is one of the last true film noirs, and it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, I could go on and on. Maybe get in touch with me some way, and I will do a list. At the moment, too much stuff is happening here. Yeah, Language of Creation. Yeah, that's the book I got. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Scottish symbols and such, so I probably can't make much of a comment on that. Yes, indeed, Beauty and Horror, Neon Demon. I thought Neon Demon was actually very, very interesting. And I think a lot of people just kind of let that slip by. And it's a very strange film. It has some very odd emotional things, but it really connects beauty and horror in a very unusual way. Not quite as deep as The Eyes Without a Face, but definitely worth seeing it. And I really like that film. I have a Blu-ray of it. Peugeot's lens into symbolism, really narrowly focused. With the end destination is already decided. Yeah, well, that's part of the problem, is that once you've decided that everything has this kind of fixed allegorical interpretation, you're not open to the other suggestions that come from the thing. And I think symbolism comes from our relationship to objects and images and shapes and places and times and such. So that, and of course, it's going to be different for different people. But for instance, I find the color orange to be fascinating. Why? Well, a lot of people think orange and they think oranges. That's kind of a, happy little fruit. But orange also is like autumn leaves. It's also pumpkins. And we have kind of sinister, kind of a strange, deathly feel about autumn leaves. Also, orange in the East is more kind of an emptying of the self, and it's a spiritual color. But what I find fascinating is that spiritual meaning of orange in the East, whether Christian robes or Buddhist robes, is very similar to our conception of death. And I won't go any further on that because it's a deep subject. But the point is that everything has these symbolic resonances. But allegory is just one spelled out version. And I think there's value in it, but I don't think it's the highest form of symbolism. And in my first video on symbolism, I quote J.E. Surlot from Spain, who I get a lot from his long introduction that, where he talks about biblical symbolism, medieval symbolism, ancient pagan symbolism, Jungian symbolism, and all this. See, a lot of people are also hopped on the Jung train for symbolism. And my problem is, whether it's the Jung train or the Peugeot ideas, they're too limited. Symbols are much richer than that, which is why they're still being formed. What's the symbolism of the smartphone? Oh, it has one, believe me. It shows up. If something shows up in comedy, if it shows up in social criticism, it's already got symbolic resonance. All I have to do to tell you, if I want to say, be careful how you spend your time. Don't spend too much time on this. You already know exactly what I'm talking about. How did this become the smartphone? That's what it is. I'm holding that, but you don't see it, and yet you all symbolically know what it is. And how does this fit into traditional symbolic interpretation? I leave that for you. Let's see. Yeah, as far as this whole Stone in Scotland thing, it would be interesting for me to have more background on that. And unfortunately, this format, the chat thing, and even with this kind of sloving chat we've got going here, it's still not a good place for that. And if we had like twice as many people, I would never be able to catch up with that conversation. So that's the kind of thing you could mention it in description, or if there's a source where I could read a bit more about it, then I could tell you that. And then if you really want more of my opinion on it and want to explain it more, then go to the About section, look for my email, send me a line there. Okay, Blue Herring, with new movies, TV, etc., I'm at the point where I only watch things people I trust recommend. That's how tired I am of the whole parasitism. As you should be. I have certain people that I follow, on YouTube who make recommendations, but even them, I know when they enter a zone where it's kind of like, okay, they like this kind of thing, whatever this is, and I know it's not that interesting for me anyway. So, but on other areas, that same person might be trustworthy. But when it comes to friends, well, you see, because I know a lot about film and movies and books and comedy and all this other stuff, and once a person comes into I've always found it funny. A person would come into my house, and they would see I have this huge library of books, another huge library of music, another library of films, and they would always ask, have you seen this? Have you heard this? Have you read that? Like, I hate to be cruel, like I need to read one more thing. It's like, yeah, you've got all this, but have you read that? And I know what they're doing though. They're trying. This is how they connect. Oh, I read this interesting thing. I heard this interesting thing. I saw this interesting thing. What do you think of it? And they want an opinion. But at the same time, it's kind of like I've often told people, yeah, the last thing you should ever get me for Christmas is a book or a movie or whatever. Why? I'm out there, looking for things. It's like, for instance, if I was to tell you the music I was listening to recently, a lot of you would just go, huh? Because that's where it is. It's like, yeah, so I'm listening to the music of Noel Coward and Anthony Newley and how it relates to David Bowie. Huh? And that's, there are some people who would actually get that. Most of them would be English. But, a lot of Americans the names would just simply, and when I say I'm getting into them, I mean, like I've got triple CD set of their music that I just got. And I'm sitting there and I'm picking this apart and finding these amazing things. So this isn't to say someone can't recommend things to me. It happens all the time. And occasionally someone gets what I'm actually looking for. And then they'll say, ooh, maybe is this interesting to you? And I've occasionally had it where I've got a good Georgian friend, Sandro, here, who will come up with stuff I've never heard before that I'm really fascinated with. It's rare that happens, but I enjoy it when it does. Yeah, I found myself, okay. So, yes, I have read Jim Morrison's account of the car accident in New Mexico when he was a kid, which seems to influence an awful lot of his songs. I think that's one of the reasons why he got obsessed with death in the way he did, and such. So, Justin, if you want more on film noir, I can give you a list of 30 titles. Write to me. Okay, I'm gonna start. Any final questions before I let you? Hello, Metaphysics. Good to see you there. Any final questions before I get out of here? It is past 11 o'clock here in Tbilisi. Yes? No? Okay, that's fine. Something might show up. There's usually a delay. But anyway, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. This was an experiment. Seems to have gone fairly well, except for I think we had one snag here. If I do this really quickly, you can see what happens. So, suddenly the question, man. Let's see. Okay, so this is it. After Dejin's yes, if you're typing, stop. Do you have any experience of a person gathering? That is for questions. If you want to say little remarks, that's fine. You have any experience of in-person gatherings, small and scale in duration, to talk and be curious together, a sort of summer school in the corner of the internet, or a mini Labrie? I don't think about doing that sort of thing on the internet. Like I would never want to do this as a Zoom thing with 20 people. I find that people getting together and discussing things on the internet, bores me. Occasionally you do get crazy stuff. Like the other day, Tim Pool had Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, Blair White, Michael Mellis, plus Tim Pool and his usual friends all at once. It was just like insane to watch. But that was also they were all together in one place. And I find most stuff on the virtual. I am thinking of once we get out of this crazy period we're in, which we will. A lot of people will always say we never will, and I always just want to slap them and just go like, yeah, we will. It's just and when people say, we're in this dark zone, well, yeah, there's a lot of darkness here. There's always a lot of darkness here, and you just live with it. And you also don't surrender to fear. Okay. But my thing is, I would like to do something in reality. And what I would like to do is maybe invite, I will eventually go back to America and get my stuff. I might do something in that moment. But I also want to invite at some point, like anyone who can, sacrifice to come here and maybe spend a week together visiting things, but also talking and stuff. I mean, if anyone has an interest in that, let me know. And it's not like something that for this summer or something, but something in the future. Let's see. Even science is no longer a refuge of wokeism. I use the science. So I usually turn to foreign literature. Okay. Around learning of, okay, we're continuing here with the mini Libri around learning goal or person's work or group formed online. Dedicated book club meeting. Yeah, see, reality is very special to me. And reality, this ain't it. This is virtual. Virtual means as if, but not in fact. And I think it's like one of the reasons things don't change is because too much stuff is left online and not enough stuff is done in person. And I want to make a video on this once I finally finish up the How We Got Here series about the reason things are not going anywhere is because no one is actually meeting physically together. And that is the key to everything. If you understand that, then it's that. Is the creepy cute video coming out? And not anytime soon, but I would like to. Good night, Vixen. Okay. And let's see. So no Zoom. Please don't, no, I won't be doing Zooms. Oh, hi, meow. Okay. So anyway, maybe someday something will happen in the flesh. Like I say, maybe if I'm traveling back in America or on my way through Europe, coming through here, or I would really love to see it if I could entice a few people to come out to Georgia, just because I think being here would, one of the things I always liked about going to Libri in Switzerland is that the bus route that goes up. And just as you're going up into the mountains, your mind is changing because you're looking at the mountains. And it's so incredible. And I think something similar would happen if a person comes here. You'd get out of your bubble, and suddenly you're in this zone where nothing you know works the way you think it should work. And I think that's the healthiest situation. Because so often we get stuck in our daily quotidian life. And we need to break that. In order to get forward, you have to see things differently. And in order to see things differently, you have to stop looking at the exact same stuff all the time. So anyway, that's how I see it. So I'm going to say farewell. And thank you for coming and spending time with me. And we'll try this again, maybe in a month. Try it again. Eventually, I'm going to hook up my actual camera to this, maybe it'll look better. So I don't know how blurry this all looks. So take care. Have a good evening, all of you, and we'll try it again soon. So end stream. That's what I'm doing.